Good morning, class. Today we're going to talk about the overview section of your business plan. Um, I hope everyone is doing well, and I apologize for the slight delay in the first upload as we were flying down to Florida. So bear with me as we go through this first section and describe what should be included in your overview. Okay, so to begin, let's start by going to the Google Drive. And from the Google Drive folder, find your document named Final Business Plan. Look at section 2, which is titled The Overview. And it essentially has to do with describing the problem, solution, value proposition in your team. So what that means is you have to start by describing the problem as it is to begin with. So for instance, I know we've covered maths example extensively in class related to the shortage of available internships for recent or soon-to-be graduates from college. So in that example, that would be a good definition of the problem, right? That there is an evident gap in work experience which many jobs require, and thus students need more opportunities to get good internships in order to have opportunities for career advancement in the future. So that would be a good example of how you might describe a problem to begin with. When you're looking at the solution, okay, so again using Matt's specific case, his solution was to actually create better networks within local universities in order to connect with their various career centers, any kind of career affairs center that kind of helps you develop your resume and cover letter and similar skills, as well as find job opportunities through the university's network. So by tapping into those various offices that manage these practices across universities in the country, he'd be able to actually expose the students to this array of internship opportunities. And from there would be, forming kind of local networks in order to gain businesses that would be interested in hiring students for these internships. Okay, so that would be a good example of the solution. In terms of the value proposition, the main way to differentiate yourself and to prove that there is actually a unique value is to describe what's called your maximum competitive advantage point. So usually it's abbreviated to a competitive advantage. Essentially, it's exactly whatever makes your company more unique than anyone else that's offering something similar. Okay, so in Matt's case, if you look at the current competitors, right, you're looking at companies like Indeed or Monster, any array of those kind of job sites that offer opportunities for career advancement, both to students but also to the general public. The problem with those job searches is they typically don't reflect the career opportunities for recent or soon-to-be college graduates in the manner that is required. So for instance, internships aren't very much a prominent factor in these websites. And when you try and even search for an internship, it's very delimited. So the unique value proposition in this case is the fact that you're able to deliver these student internship opportunities so that then they'd be able to qualify to look for jobs on some website like Monster or Indeed. Okay. Lastly, the team. The team is going to be the most challenging part for all of you because you have to look at what makes you unique in terms of being able to deliver the solution. Okay, so let's step aside from Matt's example for a minute. Let's go back to my own company's example. I was developing a biotechnology product. Obviously, that wasn't my field of expertise. So in order to cover that, I needed to ensure that my team had the right scientific staff and advisory in order to, prove that what I was saying and doing was actually the appropriate practice, right? And to also gain confidence when you're speaking in front of investors. They're more willing to listen if they see a team that is actually credible in the field, right? So if we talk about my own case, right, I specifically chose to have advisors, and both from the academic and professional side, that were mainly from the science world, because it helped me to build that leverage and credibility. In Matt's case, for instance, since we're already following this example for today's lecture, the comparable example would be to have the appropriate technology or software developers on hand that can actually manage, the fairly rapid growth that might happen in terms of student requests, internship opportunities, contacting new companies. It's going to require a significant infrastructure in terms of technology that's available. Okay? So obviously, that's just to give you a high-level overview. You want to start by identifying the problem clearly and as specifically as possible. So in each of your cases, try and go from that kind of big picture idea to something that's really specific, right? So don't try and say that you're going to change the whole job search industry, for instance. You're just focusing on trying to change that internship sector that seems to be lacking. Okay? So once you're able to do that, it kind of helps you build credibility, and then you're able to identify a more specific niche problem that you can actually tackle. That makes your solution much easier to convey, because you don't need to say that million reasons why you're slightly different from Monster if you've already identified the specific niche category that they're not targeting specifically. And that also makes your value proposition much more unique, because if you say that you're going to approach and take over a big company just by introducing your new technology, and then you're not able to, obviously, first of all, the investors are going to question whether or not you'd be able to in the beginning, right? So if, for instance, you were going to start a package delivery service and a website where you could buy gifts from, they're going to say right away, well, why wouldn't I just go to Amazon? And how are you going to compete with Amazon? So it's very important that you target that specific smaller problem, the one that might be overlooked by the larger existing competitors, so that you're able to say with confidence that, yes, we obviously can't compete with Amazon, but maybe we can be the pioneers of that 1 hour shipment, right? You order your product and it gets shipped within an hour, which isn't possible from anyone yet. But it's something that is a specific niche, as opposed to saying you're going to create a comparable website, and all the infrastructure around that. So from there, obviously the team part, as we discussed, is very important, because you need to be able to analyze why the people you selected are important, what complements they bring to your assets, and how they can actually help build your team into something that is more sustainable for the future, right? In terms of having the right managers on hand, finding the right advisors that can connect you with the right companies, and identifying those kind of niche markets. So if we talk about the team, for instance, right, a good source where Matt might say, that this is a good opportunity, and I'm going to start by identifying all of the Worcester universities at first, and then connecting with their career centers, and through them connecting with local businesses in the Worcester area that want to offer internship opportunities to students. Okay, so that's, showing that if he connects with let's say, the president of the Chamber of Commerce, then he's going to have access to a lot of those, business opportunities that would be required to offer to students as internships. So that's how you start to build that credibility. You got to look at what you need to actually deliver the solution and work back from there. So whether it requires software developers, whether it requires a manufacturing site, whatever it might be, you need to show that you're able to identify those parts, and that somehow you've already found the right team that has the experience in those areas. So since we're at this point now, there is one last point I'd like to cover in terms of the overview. Once you're done preparing the overview, you should have a clearer idea of exactly what you're looking for, how you're going to go forward, and it should be essentially a snapshot of exactly what your business is going to do, allowing the other sections to define more specifically how each section will be accomplished. So start from the overview section for this week's assignment. There's going to be soon to be some instructions to follow that I'll also send, and I'll look forward to hearing you next week. Okay? Have a nice week, everyone. And the assignment is to obviously develop this overview section for your own businesses. Submit it to me, and that will be the end of the day. Okay? Thank you. Bye.